45, 45, 90, and you got your 30, 60, 90. Those are the triangles we're talking about. However, there's some things we need to kind of memorize. I'm going to write the square root of 2 over here. And remember, on the calculator, the square root of 2 is 4142, or I'm so sorry, it's 1.4142. So we're going to use that a lot. And we're also going to use the square root of 3. And the square root of 3 is approximately 1.732. All right. So kind of remember, like not kind of, but do remember the setup for the 45, 45, 90. Remember the legs are x. And I'm just going to write x root 2. So I'm kind of squeezing in the little template because I don't want to go back through the rest of my pocket and look for it. So I'm just writing everything I need right here. Let me zoom in just a tad. And then for your 30, 60, 90, I'm going to write it in the order that it happens. So remember, there is a 3 in 30, 60, 90 because of the 30. So this is x root 3. It goes with the 30-degree angle. Then there's plane x. And then the hypotenuse is 2x. And that's going to be our little template for every special right triangle that we're talking about in here. So x root 2, x root 3, x 2x.
I have a question.
Sure thing.
So, it's not really a stupid question, but if 60 is x, how is 90 2x?
That's the legs that match it. You'll see.
I mean, that's like the angle.
It's the side measurements. Okay. You'll see. And remember, the 2x is not touching the 90 degrees. It's across from the 90 degrees. Oh, so that's not touching, yeah. And we're about to draw an example. This is just how I remember it, so I'm sharing it with you. All right, let's go with example 1. The length of a diagonal of a square is 8 root 2. Find the length of one side of this square. So guys, on examples 1, 2, and 3, there's not a picture. So we have to draw a picture on the first 3. So the best that you can, let's draw a square. And of course, you know that squares have 4 right angles. And what else do we know about a square? 4 right angles, what else? Like the most obvious thing about a square is what?
All equal sides.
Yes, all sides are congruent. So draw those little congruent marks.
That's the diagonal.
Yes. So remember, that's kind of a key word for us, y'all. The diagonal is going to cut it in half into 2 triangles. So the diagonal is going to be a slanted line that just cuts it into 2 triangles, just like that. So remember, that's the diagonal. It cuts it in equal halves. And y'all, the diagonal is always the hypotenuse. Okay, so since it cuts it in half, y'all, it also cuts the angle in half. So if you look up here, y'all, that used to be 90 degrees, but it's cut in half. What's 90 divided by 2?
45.
So y'all, we're dealing with a 45, 45, 90. So remember, for a 45, 45, 90, I'm going to use this setup right here. X and X, 45 and 45. The 2 equal sides, these are just X's. And then across from the 90-degree angle is X root 2. Here's the 90-degree angle going across. I know this is X square root 2. All right, So that's great that I've labeled that, but I haven't even really started answering the question. So the question says to find the length of one side of the square. I can't find anything. I'm missing some pretty important information. What else do we know about this problem? Root 2, this right here, 8 root 2. We know that 8 root 2 is the diagonal. So where I wrote x root 2, I'm going to write an equal sign right next to it and write what it equals. Remember, it equals 8 root 2.
Does that mean x or each of the sides 8?
Yeah. So remember, if you don't know where to start, find your equation. We've got our equation right there. So x root 2 equals 8 root 2. So x is in front of the root 2. What's in front of the root 2? 8. You guys are right. So x equals 8. So what is the length of the sides of the squares? Y'all, they're just 8 units. So let's write the length is 8 units. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at example 2. So for example 2, I don't see a picture. It looks like we're drawing again. So the length of one side of an equilateral triangle is 11. Find the length of the altitude. Y'all, the altitude is the same as what? Yeah, it's just a fancy word for height. And also, please remember that height is always forming a 90-degree angle. All of that goes hand in hand. All of it does. Okay, so let's draw a triangle the best you can. Make sure the sides are equal if you can do that. All right, equilateral. I'm going to go ahead and draw those congruent marks. And y'all, not only are their sides equal, but the angles are also equal. So let's see. A triangle has 180 degrees, and all of those angles are equal. So how many angles are in a triangle? So just do 180 divided by 3. What's 180 divided by 3?
60.
That's right. So we're going to label each of these 60 degrees.
But didn't you say the altitude is always 90?
Yes. So since this is an equilateral triangle, all the sides are slanted. Like even if I try to rotate my paper, all the sides are slanted. So if I want to know the height of an equilateral triangle is from the top of the triangle straight down to the base. So y'all, that's the height. That's how we're going to grab the 90 degrees that we need. We have we just made a 90-degree angle right there. So draw your 90-degree symbol. So listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this right side, and I'm going to do kind of what's called an exploded view. I'm just going to redraw the part we need. So remember, that was the height. And I'm just going to draw this right half here. I'm going to redraw that 60. So that is now just right there. Okay, so remember, we split that angle in half. So the whole thing up there used to be 60, but this is only half of the 60 right here. So what's that angle?
30.
Yep, that's a 30, 60, 90, guys. So we're going to go back and look at this setup that we wrote. X root 3, X, and 2X. We're going to look at that. Okay, so see where the 30 degrees is? The x root 3 has to touch where the 30 degrees are. However, where's the hypotenuse on this? It's always across. Yes. So remember, your hypotenuse is 2x. So the x root 3 is on this side. See, that 3 always touches that 3. Those go together. This whole side has a 30 degree. So the only side that's missing is just x. All right, so y'all, now we got to find the length of the altitude. What have I not talked about yet? What do we know? The number. So how much were all these sides over here?
11.
Yeah, they were all 11s. So if they were all 11s, then 2x equals 11. And what do you do if you get stuck? You start with your equation. We have an equation right here. Let's solve for x. What's half of that? If you have $11, what's half of $11? $5.50. Let's write 5.5. So what did we just find? We just found this at the bottom, but that's not what we're looking for. We still have another step. So if x is 5.5 and the altitude is x root 3, then the altitude is 5.5 root 3. And you know what? We're just going to leave it like that because that's just like a basic problem. Like if it was a word problem where they were talking about like miles or feet or something like that, I would go ahead and multiply that on my calculator. But if it's just a straight triangle problem, we're just going to leave it. Okay, let's look at example 3. That's going to be the last one where we have to draw a picture. So let's take a look at example 3. Okay, so example 3, the perimeter of a square is 40 centimeters. Find the length of the diagonal. So let's draw a square, y'all. Let's draw a square one more time, the best you can. Let's go ahead and write all of our right angles. Let's go ahead and draw all of the congruent marks. And I know that we need to find the diagonal. I'm going to go ahead and draw that slanted dash line. I'm just going to go ahead and get my picture ready. So we've got a square and a diagonal. Is this a 45, 45, 90 or a 30, 60, 90? Yes, it's going to be a 45, 45, 90. Then y'all, let's go ahead and label it. We're just rolling here. So remember, this is x. Down here is an x, but not that diagonal. X root 2. Okay, so y'all, will you write multi-step? We got to do a couple of steps here to solve this problem, right? This is a multi-step problem. And then I'm going to make like a T-chart, I guess. I'm going to put step 1 over here and step 2 over here. So step 1, we have to address like the perimeter. Do you guys remember how to find perimeter of any shape? Length times width is area. Save that one. We're going to come back to that. You just add all the sides. Is that what you said? So remember, perimeter, you add sides. And then, y'all, we have 4 sides. So this would be S plus S plus S plus S. Y'all, how many S's did I draw?
4.
Right. So look, we know the perimeter is 40. So 40 equals those 4 S's that I drew. Divide both sides by 4.
That's 10, right?
That's right. That's the magic number we need to move forward. All right. So now that we have figured that out, now we're rolling on to step 2. Okay, so we need to find the length of the diagonal here. So let's go ahead and take that 10 and put it on this picture. The 10 is either the X or the X root 2. Which one is it? It's the X. Good job. It is the X. So I'm just going to label these as 10s. And remember, if you don't know where to start with your equation. So over here, I'm going to write X equals 10. And I know we need the diagonal, so X root 2 is going to equal what? 10 root 2. That's it. So again, we're just going to write, this is just a straight triangle problem, not a word problem. So I'm going to write the diagonal is 10 root 2, and then just box it in. Okay, we got some good news. Good news is we don't have to draw any more pictures. The other piece of good news is we're almost done. We're halfway there. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at example 4. Find X and Y. If you guys notice, I don't have any degrees on this. But, yeah, and these two are congruent. See the congruent marks? So which triangle is it? Is it 45, 45, 90 or 30, 60, 90?
30, 60, 90.
They have 2 congruent. Which one of the measurements have the same angles? 45, 45, 90. So we know that these are 45 degrees. Let's go ahead and mark those. And let's go ahead and do our setup. So X is X, but remember Y equals the X also. Remember, these are the same. And then we've got 6 over here. What does 6 equal? What's the other piece of our little format? X root 2. All right, I've got myself an equation. It is time for me to solve. So X root 2 equals 6. And we're solving for the letter X, but the root 2's by it, so that's what I divide by. So the good news is those are going to cancel out, and X is going to equal 6 divided by root 2. Now remember, you wrote 1.4142 at the top of your paper. So on the calculator, when you do 6 divided by 1.4142, you are going to get 4.2. Hold on, I want to show you guys because I want to ask you, I want to make sure you're good on rounding. So let me grab my calculator. Okay, here we go. So we're going to have 6 divided by 1.4142. And then that's the answer. Well, it's either 4.2 or 4.3. Which one? It's 4. It's going to say 4.2. Why? Yes, yes. So y'all, let's write X equals 4.2. And then X and Y are the same thing. So X and Y equal 4.2. And we're going to box that in. Do you have any questions on that one? All right, we're going to wrap this up now. So let's go ahead and take a look at angle of elevation and angle of depression. So y'all, these are like entrance exam type questions. So if you're applying for a job and they make you take like a little assessment, this kind of stuff is on here. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what we got going on. Angle of depression and elevation. An angle of depression, guys, if you notice, this plane right here, this plane is flying in the sky, and of course, planes are parallel to the earth. So if the plane starts descending, it's going down. I'm just going to draw some down arrows to remind myself that it's going down. I just drew it right on that arc symbol. And then, of course, us, we are on the ground. Our feet are touching the ground. And of course, we would look up to see an airplane. So angle of elevation always is going up, increasing. All right, let's take a look at example 5, our very last one. Looks like we got an airplane. So here we go. The altimeter of a small airplane approaching an airport records 5,900 feet as it passes over a skyscraper. At the same time, the angle of depression from the plane to the end of the runway is 30 degrees. How far is it from the base of the skyscraper to the end of the runway? All right, so we know that the airplane is 5,900 feet above the ground. And we also know that the angle of depression for this plane to reach the runway is 30 degrees. So remember, we're dealing with height. I know I'm dealing with height because I have the word altimeter, which is just like altitude. So this is a 90-degree angle right here. If you notice, this is just one big giant rectangle. I just don't have this side closed right here. So this is 90 degrees. So if this portion is 30 degrees, what's going to be the part of the degrees that's on the inside of this little triangle we're working with? It's 60. Good job. Looks like we're dealing with a 30, 60, 90. So if that's 60 and that's 90, that's 150. So of course, this is going to be a 30 because 150 plus 30 is the entire degrees, which is 180. All right, here we go. So if we're dealing with a 30, 60, 90, it is always easiest to identify the hypotenuse. Here's my right angle down here, which means that's my hypotenuse. Now remember, the hypotenuse of a 30, 60, 90 is not x root 2. What is it? 2x. 2x. You got to remember that. So if this is 2x, we're rolling now. Where does x root 3 go? Is it at the bottom or is it on the side? The bottom. Great job. So let's label this x root 3. So 5,900 must just be x. So again, the question says, how far is it from the base of the skyscraper to the end of the runway? Here's the base right here, which means I'm looking for x root 3. But I have an equation, and this equation is just straight telling me what's x, y'all.
Okay.
You finished already?
Yeah.
That's good. X is just 5,900. So we're going to write x root 3 equals 5,900 times root 3. Did you get that far?
Yeah.
Awesome. So y'all, it's a word problem. So we are going to multiply this. So remember, I told you guys that root 3 is 1.732. So I'm just going to sub the decimal in for that. And I'm going to check my answer with a Reese. So 5,900 times 1.732 is that. Did you get that? 102. Look, let me write this down.
10,218.
Yes.
But you was round the last one.
10,218. Mine's already rounded for me. So I'm just going to write 0.8.
Yeah, but so you wouldn't round up from 0.8 to the next one?
No, let's always do the 10th. You can have parts of a mile. So how far is it from the base of the skyscraper to the runway? The runway is 10,218.